Welcome into the Paul Farrington Show. Paul joined alongside Robert Ziggy Ziegler at the University of Virginia, and Zach Bloomquist, the best executive producer in the game, is back with us. Jack is, well, look, he's in Nashville, or he's on his way down to Nashville for a boys' weekend. He's going to have a great time. We said he might cover the Tennessee Titans down there. Other people might speculate that after the last show, Jack just completely quit the show after. If you look at the comment section, it was a funeral. Oh my goodness.
No, I mean, I'll say I got a call from my mother after the show, and she said what Jack said was so bad that she had to leave the first comment in the history of the show.
It was,
she couldn't stand what he said.
The comment section was great. I love Jack sitting here going, you know what? I have the right football mind. We'll see in the comment section. You guys will see.
And absolutely not a single person sided with him.
It was a tough look with that comment section.
Well, this is on this show. We tell you what we really think, even when we know it's gonna get us mocked and humiliated.
And to be fair, look, we all have our bad moments here. There, Jack wore it on his chest. He took it to the chin and moved on. He didn't throw a tantrum or anything. He went, you know what? Actually, continued to defend half his points, which is honestly more classic Jack. But he was a good sport about it. So we look forward to getting him back next week post-draft. And speaking of the draft, it's draft day, boys. Let's go. Finally, we are here. Some big Vikings news will come later this evening. I can't wait. I'm so excited, Ziggy, to see beyond just the Vikings. There's so much speculation around this draft, and so many big players, franchise-altering picks are going to be made tonight. I can't wait to sit down and watch it. Hopefully, we have some live reactions to some of the picks tonight, if I can get them out. But
I'm going to be flying American Airlines during the draft. They've got some live TV.
Oh, do they?
You bet your butt I'm going to be tuned in. I'll be texting you with my iMessage like crazy. And who knows, when I'm on the ground in Denver Airport, I will do some live reporting on what Denver fans think about the pick.
It could be a new quarterback for the Broncos, potentially. They could move up. They could trade back. They might stay there and take a QB.
As long as they don't jump us. That's all I care about.
I know. A huge night for the Broncos. So it's good that we have someone on the ground in Denver. A quick congratulations again to Greg Freilich. He corrected our pronunciation. Greg Freilich, who won the March Madness competition. He got his Paul Farrington Show shirt and sent us a picture. And Greg looks pretty good in it too, by the way. Greg is rocking the merch better than almost anyone I think could. He's got a great setup too at his desk with a bunch of Packer gear. Unfortunately, maybe.
So if you want to prove us wrong, if you think you can look better than Greg, feel free to get a Paul Farrington Show shirt.
I don't know if it's possible.
We'll see.
I don't know if it's possible. It looked like it was made for Greg Freilich. So
we'll have Paul edit him onto the screen.
Yeah, I'll edit Greg's picture onto the screen. We really appreciate you, Greg, sending us the picture, playing in the competition. Everyone who played in the March Madness Challenge, we really appreciate you guys partaking in that, and all the comments, everything. The listenership and the engagement on this show is off the charts. So it's so fun when we see people. I mean, we have a mailbag today, and I threw it up late last night. There's like 33 questions or something like that. We're not going to hit every single one of them. Actually, one way that you could guarantee your question is read is to be a member. I'm making Zach happy. Zach's like, I got to quit my job, Paul. I really need this to work. Can you please promote the memberships more so you could become a member? One perk of that is that no matter what your question is, no matter what you write, we will read it on this show, which is a dangerous thing at the end of the day, and actually pretty dangerous for me. But that is one way to have every single question.
Don't know how to become a member? Look for the join button.
There's a join. Yeah. And if you go on our channel page, right? The home channel page, you could see how to become a member. You can also listen to us on audio as well if you can't catch it on YouTube. But a great show is planned today, an NFL mailbag show. And then, after tonight, we'll have a lot more news to react to. So it's a good way to head in to the NFL draft. Ziggy, you good to start right here?
Oh, absolutely.
All right. From our friend Dan Stoyer.
By his big smile he has right
now. Yeah. Look, it's draft day. It's draft day.
How could you not be excited, right? This is the NFL. It is crazy that Roger Goodell reading 32 names is more exciting to me than probably the NBA Finals. Oh, but it just is. This is one of the most the NFL's done it. This is one of the most exciting days in sports. So I'm pumped. I'm here for it.
Just to let you know, I think it's 31 names. I think they got Sketch to
Oh, did they?
To give
I think there's a few people reading out. I remember back in high school, I used to, my teacher, Mr. Aldea, I used to tell him or ask him, beg him actually, every single year at the start of the school calendar. I'd be like, Mr. Aldea, just one thing, please God, don't schedule a test the day after the NFL draft. That's all I ask you. Every single year I would do this. And, Mr. Alday is a big Jets fan, so I think he had no problem with my asking. But look, even if there was a test, I was going to skip it anyway. So I just remember going back to that. NFL draft, a big day in the Farrington household. Let's start with our friend Dan Stoyer, who says, I always find the draft fascinating for who drops down draft boards and who rises up draft boards on draft night. For example, Nakobe Dean was a consensus first-round pick in every mock draft for 2022 and fell into the third round. What player could fall in the draft, and who will be the player that will be a surprise riser? So, there's always guys like this in the draft, as Dan said. And a lot of times it happens with guys who have injuries or off-the-field issues. I think like La'el Collins. I remember Honey Badger falling, and that wasn't anything other than, his antics and things like that. But the hardest part about this is projecting which player will fall is the very fact that they are projected to go in the first round. There's a ton of talent around them. So it's hard to pick the guy out. But Ziggy, the guy that I would guess potentially could, and he also could be a top 10 pick, is Latu out of UCLA, just with his injury history. Remember, at one point, medically retired from football before transferring over to UCLA. So I could see someone like Latu falling because teams might get nervous about his injury history. Again, really hard to project this, but is there someone that you were looking at as well?
For me, it's might be old news for some people at this point, but Tavondre Sweat out of Texas. A lot of people were talking about him as a potential first-round pick. He was part of that huge Longhorns defensive line. But the big problem for him is just a couple weeks ago, he was arrested on suspicion of a DUI. There were already worries that, he was a big partier, but he said he'd reformed. He said he'd changed. It's possible that teams are taking him off the board entirely because of this. He's had weight problems. He's had legal problems. He's got the talent to be a first-round pick, but I would be surprised to see him go before day 3. But the thing is, as you said, the reason players fall, that's something that's not known to us. The reasons why are largely not known to us on the outside is teams getting inside information. And if you look historically, players who fall don't do better than other players picked around them in the draft. So when you see people talking about fallers and steals and all of that, don't buy it.
See, I always completely buy it. It's so funny.
It never works out, right? Like all these Georgia players were fallers, and people were talking about how the Eagles were going to have the best defense ever because of them. Most of those guys who fell far did not pan out.
Yeah, some of them. I mean, now it depends. Yeah, the big time fallers a lot of times won't. But
if people think you're going to be in the first round and you fall to the 4th or 5th.
I'm trying to remember where. Well, Honey Badger was a 3rd round pick. That was weird to me. I know.
No, I mean, sometimes guys fall like because of character concerns, like Tyreek Hill, and sometimes that can work out. And sometimes there's guys like Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, near and dear to our hearts, who fell and worked out pretty well.
Yeah,
but
that worked. Then you have guys like Bo Callahan who fall because people don't go to his birthday party.
In terms of risers.
Yeah. In terms of risers, real quick, Ziggy, I'll throw my guy to you. Again, this isn't a crazy one, but I do think that Brian Thomas out of LSU, the receiver, the closer we get to the draft, and you have a guy who's 6'3", 210 pounds, he ran a 4.33 at the combine. Those are attributes that jump out to anyone. Just guys like us will look at that and go, wow, that's a pretty good athlete right there. I can see him climbing up. I know he's been projected in the first round this entire time, but I can envision a world. I know that people are talking about the Jets even at 10, which feels a little too high for me. But when you have a guy with an athlete with that kind of speed at a premium position, a position that's now getting paid a lot of money after the Amon-Ra deal today, or who will be paid a lot of money, I could see Brian Thomas from LSU taking a jump into that like top 13, top 12 range.
I think that's a little aggressive.
It is a little aggressive.
But he's definitely one of the more talented receivers in the draft. There's definitely a chance that he rises big time. So for me, the player that I'm watching is this is a genuine sleeper who I think people are going to be shocked when he's taken pretty highly. Karan Omegaji. Have you ever heard of this guy?
I have not.
Karan Omegaji is a left tackle.
Piranha?
Sometimes played right.
Like Piranha?
No, Karan.
Like the Quran.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's spelled Kiran.
Okay, Karan.
He's a tackle out of Yale. And
yes.
This guy is going to go, I think, in the 2nd round. Now, I know you're thinking Ivy League guy. He's pretty smart. He was honorable mention all Ivy. Who cares? This guy is huge. He's mean. He's got an elite body. Now, look, I get that there's some work to do. You don't get the best coaching in the Ivy League and you don't get the best competition. But I think this is a guy who has a real chance to be a long-term starting left tackle in the NFL. And when you talk about guys like that, of course he's a project. And of course there are things that you might worry about. But I don't think a lot of people are expecting a guy out of Yale to go in the first 70 picks. He's going there.
The expectations for Yale graduates are usually lower than average. So
yeah, the expectations for Yale graduates are there's a tight race between KPMG and Bain.
Yeah, right. From Matt Nels, who is a member of the Paul Farrington Show.
Yeah.
Yep. From Matt. Thank you very much. We appreciate that. He says, and this is much needed right here. He says, giving Jack some love here. Do you think the Steelers will take advantage of having two QBs of relative skill by running more quarterback run option plays than most teams are willing to run? I think they are game changers, but they come at a huge risk. I can see some situations where Pittsburgh next year gets into the red zone, throws Justin Fields into the game, and has a little bit of that option ability where you take advantage of his legs, because we've said many times, outside of Lamar Jackson, and maybe even including Lamar Jackson, Justin Fields is the best running quarterback in football. But at the same time, this is not going to be a 2-quarterback system in Pittsburgh. Russell Wilson will be the quarterback. Maybe every once in a while you see Fields come in, more so than the average team would do to run an option play. But I think they'll take advantage of his skill set every once in a while. But I do not think this is going to be something where you're going, oh, is this Fields going to come in on this series or not? It's more going to be every once or twice a game.
No, but if Fields can beat out Russell Wilson at some point, which is possible, even though that's going to escalate the draft capital, go back and look at the offense Arthur Smith ran with Marcus Mariota. When Mariota was playing, and I get that Fields isn't the same kind of player, he's much better, but when Mariota was playing, Arthur Smith really liked RPOs. He really used Mariota's dual threat ability. And again, we're talking about Mariota's dual threat ability. Justin Fields is another level on that. Even if you don't think he's that guy as a passer, which he's not, he can run. There's definitely a good possibility. I think when Justin Fields starts playing for them, who knows when or if that will be, but if you're getting Justin Fields starting, you are going to see a fair number of RPOs and QB runs.
Yeah, and that, look, in Pittsburgh too, I think that's going to be a lot of fun to watch. I think that some of the weapons that they haven't been utilized to the fullest of their capabilities. Most people would agree there. So if it all works out, which is a huge if, but Justin Fields does have one of those skill sets that is special. And if he can figure it out, I'm excited to see it. The Amphibinator, he says, super excited to see you guys cover the draft. Which prospects that are projected to go after day one do you believe will shock everyone and be taken in the first round? Thanks for the awesome content as always. Then he says, go Pack Go. So sort of ruins the good question there with that go Pack Go at the end. But, one guy that I've sort of paid attention to, I'd be lying if I said I'm completely watching this guy, but someone that has been rising up through the process is Braden Fisk from Western Michigan, the transfer who went to Florida State. Started off as like a 3rd, 4th round draft guy, got a really good season, dominated the Senior Bowl, had a great NFL combine, and now all of a sudden he's a 2nd round talent who some people think could get into the end of round 1. And like the way you hear him described is exactly what you want from a defensive lineman. It's dog. He's a dog, or some of the comments about him. I don't expect him to go in the 1st round, but he's sneaking up, and that's someone who could make his way in. Do you have a guy, Ziggy, that you're highlighting? Another Ivy League guy?
Would you call Keon Coleman a surprise to go in round 1?
Yeah, I think I would.
So he's a polarizing prospect, right? I mean, he's got a lot of athletic ability, but he didn't show a whole lot at Florida State. No one really knows what to think about this guy.
I mean, that opening game, I still remember. Holy crap.
Yeah, no, there's some potential there, right? He is incredibly fast, even though on the field he got few opportunities to show it. If a team falls in love with his athletic ability, and unfortunately the Raiders aren't picking near the end of the 1st round, so that makes this a little bit less likely. But it just takes one team to look at a guy like that and say, we can unlock the potential, and he's gone.
God, I love that about the draft. When you draft someone and the word you hear is, potential through the roof, I get giddy over those kind of dudes. And most of the time they don't work out. But I mean, I love having the optimism. That's one of my favorite parts of draft night.
No, I mean, after the draft, every time this is what I do is I look at whoever like the Vikings 3rd or 4th round pick is, and someone will have some like ridiculous YouTube over a rap song like highlight video, and I turn the volume up to 11 and just watch that, and I get hyped. And then the guy, he's never good.
That doesn't even make
never
the
like
he won't even make the team.
There's a great Lewisine hype video out there.
Oh, don't get me started, Ziggy. Do not get me started on the Lewisine pick, the Lewisine draft. We all know.
I'm just saying.
And anyone who's listened to this show knows my problems with that draft class. I don't want to get into that.
There's a funny meme with
of me like punching a wall?
No, the wide receiver. Every time they were just like showing like, oh, I'm showing my girlfriend like the greatest receiver, and it was like, I forget who it is. I can't remember.
It's all of them. It's like who's the Corey Coleman at Baylor?
Trayvon Austin.
Yeah, Tavon Austin at West Virginia. It's all those guys. There's always so many receivers who are hyped up. I mean, remember Kevin White, another West Virginia guy with the Bears?
I mean, Kevin White could have been good if it weren't for the injuries.
Yeah, he could have, but
Rondale Moore, he was one of those guys.
Rondale Moore, you were on. Oh my God,
Wes Watkins.
Yeah, we could go down. We could go down as hugely.
Benjamin.
Benjamin had a couple of years where he was solid, but
and then he turned into a tight end.
I mean, even Quentin Johnson so far hasn't been. Yeah, Ziggy's like, all right,
next
question, we go down.
Folks.
Ryu Hitsuya says he's got a pair of questions. What trades, big or small, do you anticipate being made? Major ones going up in the first round, or people trading back to build draft capital? I mean, the ones that I'm looking at, obviously, is the Vikings, the Broncos, Vegas, all these quarterback teams. I said it, 11, 12, 13, Minnesota, Denver, Vegas. That to me, combined with New England, is going to dictate the trajectory of this draft. So I think at least one, maybe two of those teams are going to make aggressive moves for a quarterback. There were reports today about Vegas, or about yesterday, about Vegas trying to go up to 2 at one point with the Commanders. So like people are desperate. This is a little bit of a desperate draft. Whichever one of those teams winds up making the moves is making a franchise altering decision. So those are the big ones. And then maybe you have like Chicago or at 9 trade back, or Detroit later in the draft.
This is not so much a trade that I expect to see, but a trade I would like to see. I would love to see the Buffalo Bills trade back. Now I know what everyone's thinking. Everyone's thinking you need a receiver. You need to go up to like 10 and get your guy. But that's so expensive for a team that has a really big window. What I'd love to see them do is trade back into the early second, get some extra draft capital, and take a couple swings at wide receiver in this round. Because moving back, you could get, say, like you could move, like trading your first round, you can move back. You could get like a mid-second round pick and like a 3rd or a 4th. I would love
me
to
and
see
you, dude. Me and you in the war room together. If Ziggy and I were co-GMs,
I'm saying like getting Roman Wilson, and then you can add in like a Malik Washington or a Xavier Leggett or something. Like that's what you should be doing. They should not be moving up for Rome Odunze.
Could you imagine the clashing of me and you as co-GMs? You'd be you and your like dartboard strategy. The more darts you have, the better. And me with like my big fish hunting, where you'd be like, all right, Paul, I think.
Yeah, no, I'm Ozzie Newsome. You're Dave Gettleman.
Yeah, right. Yeah, okay, come on. It would be like we'd be at pick 22, and I'd go like, all right, Odunze's there at 11. Like, we can make the move right now. And Ziggy would be like, well, we could also trade back and accumulate a 2nd and 2/3. I'd be like, what the fuck are you talking? Like, let's go up and get him. That would be horrible. And then Zach would be in the corner of the room just going like, ah.
Jack will be telling us to move up for Brock Bowers.
Well, Jack would be like, Jack would find some crazy 6'5" dude and like, didn't play college football. He'd be like, what, we could steal this guy right now. And it would be a disaster if our cast was running an organization. But then again, it could also turn out good because, we do get a little lucky with these things. Ryu Hitsuya's second question was, do you have any early predictions or division winners based solely on current pre-draft roster? Well, Ryu Hitsuya, we actually did an entire episode of pre-draft predictions for where teams will finish that you could go check out, a full episode. And I'm assuming you've probably seen it because we thank you for commenting and sharing mailbags all the time with us. My winners, though, for the divisions were Cowboys in the East, Detroit, San Fran, Atlanta. That's your NFC. AFC, I had the Dolphins. There you go, Zach. The Bengals, the Chiefs, and the Texans. So we have an entire episode dedicated to just this question. We didn't anticipate this question, but we do have an entire episode for it. So check that out if you want more on that. James Library, another consistent commenter, says, what is your guys' favorite football play that you've seen that doesn't involve your favorite teams? Keep up the amazing work, guys. Love listening to all your content. Thank you, James. We really appreciate it. And we look forward to your questions every week. Go ahead, Ziggy. Do you have a favorite play that sticks out to you?
A favorite play that sticks out to me? That's a good question. So I can't pick any Vikings plays, right?
No Vikings. And you know what? I'm going to take away any Notre Dame plays, any Rams plays from your Rams fandom. I'm going to take away the Jets too. I'm going to really try and narrow this into non-Ziggy teams.
This is a play that has unfortunately been lost due to time because of how the rest of the game played. But for me, maybe the most incredible football play I've seen in my time watching football. This is the very first real football game I watched and paid attention to. The Julio sideline catch in the Super Bowl.
Oh yeah.
No, if the Falcons had won that Super Bowl, that would be a Hall of Fame moment play. They didn't, so it never happened. But that is, I think, the greatest catch that I've ever witnessed.
That was unbelievable.
I wasn't around for the helmet catch or whatever. I'm not saying it's the best catch in NFL history or whatever, but you talk best catch in the past 10 years. People forget. You should look this up. People forget how incredible that Julio toe tap sideline catch was. Unbelievable.
I'm trying to remember. I think this just came to my head now. I can't remember his name. The lineman for the Patriots on the kickoff return. I think that was against the Packers when he returned it to the 3-yard line or whatever it was.
Oh, it was Pat Connolly, right?
Connolly, yeah.
Or Dan Connolly.
Was it against Green Bay?
I can't remember who was against. Packers fans will know. Was it against the Packers? You can tell us.
I thought it was.
I hope remember, it was.
But everyone knows the play I'm talking about. I remember watching that live, just laughing my ass off. And in terms of plays that really always stuck with me, you mentioned it. The helmet catch to me, I was that was 2008, so I was 8 years old, 9 years old at the time. I remember watching that game and being growing up in Northeast New Jersey. The madness about the Giants in church that day. We got to go Giants from the priest at the end of mass. And I just remember that catch just being crazy, pictures of it all over New York City. But the other one was the Santonio Holmes catch the year after. And it's funny that this comes up because I just rewatched most of that game. It was on NFL Network and I just had it on the background. I forgot how crazy that comeback from the Cardinals was. And then for the Steelers and Big Ben to drive all the way down the field, I was desperately rooting for the Cardinals because I didn't want Jack and the Steelers to win another Super Bowl. I was a bad friend like that. But that play might be the most skilled play I've ever seen because the throw was perfect, catch was perfect. I mean, that sticks in my mind. I remember that was unbelievable.
There's only one play I've ever seen that made me, besides of course, the miracle, it's made me actually drop my jaw as I was watching it. Remember that DeAndre Hopkins, over 3 defenders, catch it with 1 second left on the clock to beat the Bills?
I didn't see it live, but I remember.
I was watching this game on my phone, right? There was some other game on the TV that I was watching, and I thought the game was over. So I glanced down and saw Kyler Murray chuck this ball, and there's 3 defenders around, and I just sort of see game over, but the audio's on a little bit. So the ball's over, I say, oh, nice job. And then I hear touchdown. And I look and watch the replay. Again, this is a play some people forget about. That is one of the most impressive catches in NFL history. You've got 3 defenders all over you. You just go up, get the ball, win the game over.
Oh, it was disgusting.
If there were fans in the stand, there would have been an earthquake. And
jaw dropping was also Michigan State. If you go to college, the punt, the dropped punt return for a touchdown. That actually, I remember my jaw just looking around, my friends going, "Oh my God, did that just happen?" But there's so many plays. Drop in the comment section a play that you remember like that. Could be your favorite team too. Maybe it could be the onside kick, the helmet with the Packers. If anyone remembers that play against the Seahawks, just messing around. X Pomsky X says, just a friendly reminder that you guys are 10.3% on the way to 100,000 subscribers, meaning we will require that slow-mo bachelor video from Ziggy.
We get to 100K, it might just come.
That'll come. That'll happen. But the question of the week, can you imagine Jack doing what Aaron Rodgers did, going into a darkness retreat Even better, imagine Russell Wilson doing a 2-day darkness retreat, just 48 hours of silence in Steeler country. Let's weld. Jack, can you handle the 48 hours? Paul, can Kirk handle that? Let's see into this. Will he make a great return next year? In terms of Jack doing a darkness, you wouldn't want to see. I don't want to see what would happen during a Jack darkness retreat. They'd have the cameras on him, the night vision. I don't even want to know what's going on in that room.
We know what'll be going on in that room.
I don't even want to know what's going on in that room for 48 hours.
We know. This is a PG.
I don't. I could do a darkness retreat. I could handle it. I want to do one sometime.
Yeah, I think it would be kind of. I think it would be kind of fun. Russell Wilson would also just be he'd probably just meditate for 48 straight hours in that move. Kirk would be phenomenal at it. Kirk would find some deeper spiritual meaning for sure. But yeah, Jack in the. Let's move on.
We should try that sometime. If I have to do the Bachelor thing, Jack's to do that when we
Jack in a darkness retreat.
Who knows what would happen.
I don't think Jack likes the dark. I think or Andrew or someone didn't like the dark.
Better.
No, Jack doesn't like
ghosts.
Robbers,
yeah. Jack doesn't like robbers. XX McLovin XX says, "Man, I missed last week's questions, so I have to hit a home run with the set today." Well, we're happy you're back. What are your thoughts on Atlanta's tampering with Kirk Cousins? And if guilty, what should the punishment be to set a standard to not do it? The whole thing with the tampering, it does seem, obviously it happened. Kirk said he talked with, I think it was the head athletic trainer in the window when he wasn't allowed to. And Kyle Pitts was recruiting. And then they wound up getting
a bunch of babies in the NFL.
What, with the tampering?
Yeah.
Look, I don't care. I thought he was going to go to Atlanta anyway. Obviously, a rule's a rule, and they should be punished for it.
They should lose like a 4th round pick or something, and you move on.
But look, no. As a Viking fan, I'm going to slam my hand.
I mean, they should have to give us their first.
Yeah, I'm going to slam my fist on the table and be, this is unacceptable. I want a 1st round pick next year. Zach's just mad because the Dolphins lost it first for Tom Brady.
Yeah, but y'all deserved it.
And Sean Payton. Yeah, you did deserve it.
Deserve anything. Neither one was on the team anyway.
A good punishment. Apparently the NFL is going to come down hard. Look,
we'll see.
Yeah, I would love to if they give us a second.
I don't think we're going to get anything from them.
Yeah, I actually, especially since it's been delayed till post draft, it seems like I would imagine I could see Atlanta losing a 1st round pick though, or a 2nd round pick.
We lost a 1st round pick.
If you don't want people to do it.
What you guys did was way worse than anything Atlanta.
We didn't get the guy.
You got the guy.
Tried.
We tried. Atlanta tried and succeeded.
Yeah, they tried and succeeded.
Maybe Kirk's on the team if not for the Falcons. I think that if the NFL, look, your question was if you want. It was if guilty, what punishment should set the standard to not do it? Take away a 1st. Like if you want to get rid of tampering, take away a 1st.
But even if you do that, all people are going to do is be more careful. You're not getting rid of. This is why there's a legal tampering window.
Yeah.
And immediately it's the first second of the legal tampering window, guys are announcing 5-year deals.
Yeah, we know.
Look, we already know. It's fine. I don't care. Move on.
Second question. Have you been paying attention to Green Bay players' social media? Look, honestly, not too much. Some players that didn't show up to optional preseason workouts / meetings in previous years are now all of a sudden stepping up. And it seems as though they have a lot more initiative to come to optional things. Your thoughts on that? I don't follow too closely on which Packers do and do not show up.
But we'll take your word for it.
Yeah. To optional meetings and workouts. But I am always a fan of my team showing up to these things. I think that there is definitely a feeling to this Packers team going into the season that it is a close-knit group of dudes, a young group of dudes who are hungry to win. That is the vibe that I'm getting the more and more I hear about what's going on in Green Bay this year. So I think that this is very consistent with everything else. And it's reason to be excited. If I were a Packer fan, I'd be very happy to see that this team seems all in and pissed off about the way last season ended. Now, this also could have nothing to do with what I'm saying. It could just be a coincidence. But I do think that the vibes out of Green Bay right now are probably the best they've been heading into a season in 4, 5, 6.
The culture's just totally
in Rodgers'
changed.
career.
You've got young guys in who are hungry, and Jordan Love is being a leader, right? And Aaron Rodgers, he did this for a lot of years and was very good at it. But right now, Jordan Love is stepping up. He's getting guys to take the offseason seriously, and he's leading by example. He's not going on a TV show. He's not doing weird retreats. He's not going to South America to do drugs. Like Jordan Love is training with Drew Brees on the second day of the offseason. He wants to win, and I can't blame him. But it's definitely a very different culture change.
It's a great one if you are happy if you're a Packer fan. Last question from McLevin. He says, got to make it a good one. Do you think Caleb comes into the NFL and is successful? Because we saw Trevor Lawrence have a stellar career in college. He literally never lost. And his average so far in the NFL. Do we expect Caleb to really change things in Chicago? Shouldn't Caleb know that Jordan Love is the actual owner of them? Love you guys. Keep up the awesome work. And Jack, Green Bay will beat the Steelers the next time they face. Thank you, McLovin. We always appreciate your comments. Go ahead, Ziggy.
But I do have to challenge you a little bit. Trevor Lawrence has not been average. He's been an above average quarterback. And he's been an above average outcome for the first overall pick, right? I get that things have been disappointing with Trevor Lawrence if you expect him to be an immediate Hall of Fame guy. But he's been an above average NFL quarterback. He's put together a lot of good games. You know, he was stuck in a terrible situation. And he has changed the fortunes of this franchise non-trivially, right? Like they've been consistently competitive while he's been there after the Urban Meyer disaster. That was not the case, excluding the one really great Blake Bortles year before he got there.
The golden year.
I mean, if you're asking, is Caleb Williams going to be a Hall of Fame? Probably not. Is Caleb Williams going to be an above average quarterback? I think it's likely that he is. But again, if he is as good as Trevor Lawrence, that's an above average outcome for the pick, and you have to be happy with that. You can't come in expecting him to be the number one guy in the NFL. And
we've said this too a couple times now, but Caleb Williams is not coming into a team that actually owns the number one pick in the draft. The Bears are the 9th pick. Usually you have the number one overall pick come into a situation where it's just an absolute shit show, and you have a lot of rebuilding to do. You look up and down this Bears roster. This is a really talented team, and specifically on offense for what Caleb Williams is going to have. If Keenan Allen, what's his name? DeAndre Swift, DJ Moore,
whatever receiver they get.
Cole Kmet. I mean, that is a good group of weapons to have at your disposal. It's much better than anything Bryce Young had heading into last season. I think Caleb's in a great position to be successful right away, and I think he will be by the middle of the year, having the Bears probably taking a run at a playoff spot, a wild card spot. I don't think they'll win the division, but with the way the defense closed the season, I think Caleb Williams is going to come in and help this team elevate to another level. I think I'd be really excited if I were a Bears fan. It's a great time to be a fan of really any NFC North team, except maybe even the Vikings with the draft.
If we move up and get a quarterback, then everyone's excited.
Yeah, it's a super fun division right now. And actually, this goes hand in hand with the next question here from Jeremy, who always leaves a comment as well. We appreciate that, Jeremy. He says, according to Brandon Perna, Broncos Clickbait Sports, since the AFL-NFL merger, only 11 out of 57 first overall draft picks have become Hall of Famers. 12 or 13, maybe 14 if Matt Stafford, Cam Newton, or Joe Burrow eventually make it. Do you think Caleb will make it as a Hall of Famer, or is the other 70 to 80% of that statistic more likely? I mean, it's more likely he's not a Hall of Famer, but I do think that Caleb Williams is coming in with as much raw talent at the quarterback position as maybe anyone I've ever seen. I didn't know too much about Mahomes when he came into the league. Caleb can make every single throw. His escapability is truly second to none at the college level that I can remember. So you have to say he won't be a Hall of Famer, but I'm extremely confident in Caleb Williams being a Pro Bowl caliber quarterback.
Yeah, and you've got to think about how high a bar Hall of Famer is, right? Like Drew Bledsoe, Vinny Testaverde, Michael Vick, Carson Palmer. Eli's going to make the Hall of Fame eventually. Like Alex Smith, if he had been that good in San Francisco. Mm-hmm. Like there are plenty. Andrew Luck. I mean, again, like Jared Goff. There are plenty of quarterbacks. Kyler Murray. Like
you're writing off Jared Goff?
I'm not. I think it is unlikely Jared Goff makes the Hall of Fame.
I would agree.
But like again, whether he does or not, like, those are quarterbacks who are good outcomes, right? And of course, there are plenty of bad outcomes, right? I mean, you can point at Jeff George, Tim Couch, David Carr, Jamarcus Russell, Sam Bradford. Like there are lots of bad outcomes you can point to too, but it's not Hall of Fame or bust, right? If Caleb Williams throws for 30 touchdowns this year, he's thrown for more touchdowns than any Bears quarterback in history. If he puts together 2 legitimate Pro Bowl seasons during his career, he's the best quarterback the Bears have ever had.
Yeah.
So it's not, again, you have to set the standards realistically. Is it likely that he's a Hall of Famer? Absolutely not. But there's as good a chance as you can get with an NFL draft pick that Caleb Williams is pretty good. And ask Bears fans if they will accept a quarterback who's pretty good. 100% yes.
Again, yeah, Sid Luckman is the guy that they're going to in their debate.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a Bears fan, you can like legitimately ask if Sid Luckman is your best quarterback in history.
I saw someone the other day, a Bears fan was begging for Jay Cutler back. They were going, God, we didn't know how good we had, and I was like, yeah, no, really have it that good to begin with.
Yeah,
Jay was good.
You can pick between Jay Cutler or Sid Luckman as the best quarterback in your history. No disrespect to Sid Luckman, but he was born in 1910. He died like 25 or 30 years ago.
Yeah, he Sid Luckman. Yeah.
He can't be the best quarterback in your franchise history. I'm sorry.
DD Jenkins 5409 says, would you be okay? And I haven't seen this question before yet, so I think this is a fun one. Would you be okay with taking the best available player like a Marvin Harrison Jr. if by some miracle he falls that low and either taking a late quarterback or trading for a mediocre one after the draft? I'm assuming he's talking about the Vikings in this situation. If Marvin Harrison Jr. fell to 11 and the Vikings drafted him, I would throw up an emphatic fist pump. I understand that we need a quarterback and that everything we've done has been with the objective of trading up to get a quarterback. But when you talk about a dude like Marvin Harrison Jr., this league right now, it's an offensive-minded league. You need weapons to compete at the highest level. If we rolled out Jefferson, Addison, Marvin Harrison Jr., and TJ Hawkinson with Aaron Jones, who's to say Sam Darnold's not going to have an amazing... Like, Sam Darnold can throw a football. That's all you really have to do with those dudes. I would be completely okay with that. If a superstar fell, I'm never going to complain too much, but
it's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen, but it's a fun hypothetical.
You can sit back and ask yourself, right? Here are your choices, right? Like you can have JJ McCarthy, or you can have Marvin Harrison and either Bo Nix or Michael Penix, whoever you like more. Yeah, I mean, I'm going for the second option every time.
Would you take, let's pretend like Malik Neighbors fell to 11. Would you take Neighbors? Would you rather have McCarthy or now Drake May? I'd rather have May, but would you rather have McCarthy or Penix and Neighbors?
I'm probably taking Penix and Neighbors.
Me too. I mean, what about Alt? What about Joe Alt and Penix?
Here's the thing, right? Is in this situation we're getting the 4th best quarterback in the draft. It is very rare that the 4th best quarterback in the draft ends up being an elite NFL quarterback.
Was Josh Allen? Or was he? What was he?
He was the 3rd, right?
Yeah, 3rd because Rosen was the.
But again, I mean,
Rosen was 4.
It happens sometimes. It happens sometimes, but it's uncommon. We're not talking QB1 or even QB2 here. I'd rather have the best prospect at a premium position and the 5th or 6th best quarterback than the 4th best.
Was Jordan Love the 4th quarterback? Did it go Burrow, Tua, Herbert, Love?
Yeah, and then Hurts was the 5th.
And Hurts was 5th.
Look, I mean, but in 2020, that draft class was so weird.
I'm screwing.
No, I hear you.
This quarterback always seems to hit.
Yeah, maybe Lamar was 5th. Yeah,
Lamar was 5th. Hurts was 5th.
Gosh, that 2020 class really didn't have a miss. I mean, Tua's probably
it's crazy how
after still very good.
Yeah, that's crazy that you said that on the fact.
After 2020, everyone was saying that like the 2021 class was going to be better. Isn't it funny how that's turned out that now in the 2021 class everyone sucked?
And 2020
one, and in the 2020 class, I mean, you've had 3 guys emerge as legitimate quarterbacks.
What 3 are you talking about?
Hurts, Tua, and Love.
Yeah.
Because after the first year, you knew Burrow and Herbert were good.
Okay.
No, I'm saying you knew Burrow and Herbert were good after the first year, especially after the second year. Yeah, but then you've had unusually later in the year 3 guys emerged and became good. No, Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow did not emerge.
Let's see. As we continue on down here, Goji Man 1649 says, I have 2 questions. Do you think Sean Payton will be able to make Zach Wilson into, at the very least, a serviceable quarterback? I don't think Zach Wilson is ever going to be a serviceable starter in the NFL. I know he's 24 years old, has a lot of arm talent, sometimes you just watch guys and you can get a feel for it. And then there's always dudes like Geno who come and have a rise at the end of their middle of their career somehow. That happens once in a while, but not very often. I think the ship has sailed for Zach Wilson being a starting quarterback in the National Football League, one that you trust going into a season. I do think there's a chance that Sean Payton can get him to be a reasonable backup for a couple of years before he eventually flames out. Zach Wilson, is a guy who's going to rely on arm talent and athleticism to a degree. Maybe Sean Payton can help fix that a little bit and make him more of a steady QB that you could have. I'm just thinking when the Vikings had Sean Mannion as their backup, I would have paid $1 million to have Zach Wilson playing instead of Sean Mannion. Sean Mannion can be a backup quarterback. Zach Wilson can. So I think it's possible, but unlikely we ever see him in a starting role with confidence again.
Zach Wilson will be serviceable for making sure you're picking near the top of the draft next year. Yep. And that's it.
Part
he gave
two.
Zach Wilson some weapons and one of the best defenses in the NFL, and he's 13-21 in his career. Yeah, okay, man.
Part two, sure. What are your NFC North first round draft predictions? So obviously Bears go Caleb 1. I do think at this point it's looking like the Vikings will trade up for McCarthy. I was hoping it was going to be May, but my guess is New England nabs May at 3, and the Vikings probably go up to 5 and take McCarthy. That's likely. Bears receiver or edge rusher at 9 unless they trade back. Packers probably go DeJean. We had a whole video on who the Packers could go after. I'm thinking maybe lineman. Ziggy and I disagreed on that. And then Detroit, I can see Detroit. I think they're 29. I could see Detroit trading back if they're not in love with anyone, getting a few more picks because that roster is looking pretty good. But at 29, not sure you're going to have anyone who you really, really are that confident feels the need. So I can see them moving back, but also, go after the secondary, help the D line a little bit if someone's there. That's my guess for the NFC North. You good to move on, or do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, no, I'm good with that.
History Nerd 8438 says, I've seen a lot of mock drafts having JJ McCarthy in the top 4 picks when before the Natty he wasn't even near that. What's your opinion on his stock being so high right now? Go ahead, Ziggy. You could take this one.
That's not where his stock is. JJ McCarthy's stock is not top 4. Now, it's not your fault, right? Because all of the mock drafts have his stock top 4, but that's just not where his stock is. I think realistically, about the highest he's going to go is 11. He might fall.
No, you shut your mouth. You think tonight the highest JJ McCarthy goes is 11?
I don't think he's going top 10. Look, I might be wrong. I absolutely could be wrong.
Totally wrong.
But I think that Drake May is going to go, and nobody's going to be excited to trade up for this guy. I think that's just the truth.
Oh, he's going before 11. 100%. If he's at 9,
people say this crap all the time. Oh yeah, Will Levis. He's going to be the 3rd quarterback in the draft. I'm very confident about the top 3. I do not think JJ McCarthy's going top 10.
I also agree with you that he's being overhyped right now. And he's a strange prospect because, again, he doesn't have Anthony Richardson type of athleticism, that sort of ceiling that we get excited about, the super athletes. That's not JJ McCarthy. He's also not someone who lit it up on the highlight reels. So he's a weird prospect in that there's really what are we actually getting excited about here? It's sort of his attitude and his winning and his, he's a good quarterback. His consistency, accuracy, things like that. People do like it, but in terms of someone who's risen this high up the draft board, he's a little bit in a league of his own. But I definitely think that if he's sitting there, Ziggy, at like 7, 8, and all of a sudden now you have the Broncos and Raiders come into play, they might want to jump. If people have him higher than Knicks and Penix, I 100% can see people trying to jump Minnesota, or Minnesota trying to move up and secure their guy before someone beats them to it. I guarantee you JJ McCarthy's a top 10 pick. Guaranteed.
All right, well, we'll see. Okay. But in any case, I will say this much. You can go back to before even Michigan won the national championship. We were saying that he was a guy where the media was going to catch up with NFL scouts and realize there's a lot to like about this guy. And there is that. I mean, it's not winning the national championship has nothing to do with his stock being this high. So I don't know. He's a polarizing prospect. There's a lot to like. There's a lot not to. I don't know, but I don't think he's going top 10. I've said it. We'll see. You can come into the comments of this video because this is going to show up in a lot of y'all's feeds after the draft. You're going to look for things to make fun of us for. You can make fun of me or Paul.
Yeah, I mean, remember the rule of the show is Paul is always right. Ziggy is sometimes right, sometimes wrong. And then I guess Jack would fill the need of Jack is always wrong. So,
and I'm just here.
And Zach's here. Zach, this is the part of the show now where we still have a decent amount of mailbag questions left, and Zach's looking at his clock going like, 4:30 a.m. comes pretty quick.
It does come quick, boys. So,
so
we might have to end
we will continue rolling here. We'll continue rolling. Jesse Cook says, hey, this is in response to a Lions-Packers video, I believe, that we had. He said, yes, seriously, the Lions are terrible against the pass the last 3 years, so they sign a cornerback 2 from Tampa. Then they cut Sutton, and they will have a quarterback disadvantage with Goff across the entire division. So how the hell do you think they will win the NFC North next year? Is it just not being used to seeing winning football and not knowing what is transferable year to year? Jesse, my God, man, come on, chill out here. When you say seriously, I say, yeah, let's be serious. Detroit is a really good football team, top to bottom. You want to talk about their offense? Elite offensive line, elite weapons, like elite running backs, elite tight end, elite receiver, the highest paid in the league right now in Amon-Ra. And Goff
very good quarterback.
And the thing is with Goff, I know people like to get on him. Jared Goff was really good last year. Consistently good the entire season. And he's actually been really good for a year and a half now, going back to Detroit's run to end the 2022 season. So at some point, we have to look at Jared Goff. You might not have to say he's a top 10 quarterback in football, but you have to look at him and say, this guy's been really consistent and consistently good for a year and a half now. That's not a coincidence. He's just playing good football right now. And if that defense, yeah, I'm not the biggest fan in the world of Carlton Davis or anything like that, but they're shoring up the D-line. I think they're trying to improve the secondary. They might do it again later tonight in the draft. Look, I'm assuming Jesse's a Packer fan. Ignore Detroit at your own risk. Like they were up 17 in the NFC Championship game. Again, our friend Tom Monroe always gets shouted out. Like these Lions are really good, and I see no reason why they're not a top 3 contender in the NFC next season. So.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Lions had what? They had the second worst pass defense in the entire NFL last year. You could argue it was the worst pass defense in the NFL last year across the whole regular season. And they had the 3rd best offense and did really good. What's stickier, offense or defense? We know the answer to that. It's offense. Mm-hmm. Did they lose their offensive coordinator? No. Did they lose any important pieces on offense? No. They lose their head coach? No. Like, they haven't lost anything. So I fully expect this Lions team is going to be good. Now, you're right, they haven't improved the pass defense as much as you'd like to see. You hope that they regress a little bit towards the mean, but even if they don't, they were able to win last year despite having a team that had this hole on it. So I'm not convinced that suddenly this guy's going to fall in Detroit just because their weakness from last year continues to be a weakness.
And you wanted to bring up too, the big moves they made today, signing Amon-Ra St. Brown, 4 years, $120 million deal. 77, I believe, is guaranteed of that. And then Penei Sewell gets a 4-year, $112 million deal on top of the 5th year of his rookie deal now. Both those guys, I believe, are the highest paid at their position in football right now. Ziggy, you said right before we got on, and we said save it for the show, but do you like this or not? I thought you always liked getting ahead of the curve.
I like the fact that they're signing these guys early and getting ahead of the curve. That much is good. The thing I wonder is whether Amon-Ra St. Brown is the best use of their resources. Now, let me be clear. Amon-Ra St. Brown is an excellent NFL player. He is one of the better receivers in the league. But he plays slot. And historically, slot production is among the easiest offensive productions to replace. Now, you can say, look, Amon-Ra is special in the slot, and he is. But we're talking about a guy with a career average depth of target of under 8 yards. Now, I think he's a good value for somebody. But you look at the Lions, right? They're going to have to pay their tight ends big money. They're going to have to pay Jared Goff big money. They're paying their offensive line big money. Like, at a certain point, something has to give. And if Jared Goff signs the kind of deal I think he's going to sign, $45, $50 million a year, you've got Frank Ragnow, you got Taylor Decker, right? You've got a lot of expensive offensive linemen, and you're adding with Sewell. Eventually, you're going to need to spend on defense. Eventually, you're going to need to spend on some of these guys on offense. I'm just not sure that the fit makes sense for this team. On the other hand, Amon-Ra St. Brown is a great player. But it seems to me like that's the kind of thing you could hope to replace in the draft or with cheaper free agents. So as much as I like they're getting out and signing him early, And, they're getting out, they're signing into this before Justin Jefferson, before Jamar Chase. I get those guys play slightly different positions, but before the big receiver contracts come in, I just wonder whether the Lions should be the team doing this rather than trading him for a bunch of capital and drafting some other cheaper receivers.
I get where you're coming from. I do think that Amon-Ra, I'm fine with this move from Detroit. Young dude who's only getting better, it seems, every single year. What do you have, 1,500 yards last year? This scares me a lot for the Vikings with Jefferson.
Yeah.
Because
look, here's what they're choosing to do, right? What they're choosing to say is we can replace a guy like Taylor Decker easier than we can replace a guy like Amon-Ra St. Brown. Because you can't, after this, go out and sign a big money left tackle. Historically, that's not the case, but that's what they believe they can do. It'll be interesting to see what they're able to.
Yeah, and once they get Goff settled down too, at least they'll have the foundation of that offense for the next 4 or 5 years here, with Sewell and everyone there. But yeah, it's a risky move. Anytime you hand out a contract like that, it's risky. But this receiver market's getting crazy. You mentioned before we started the show, who could someone wind up pushing 40 million in a couple of years? Probably. As the salary cap goes up, I'm not happy about what's going on with the receiver market for where the Vikings stand. Zach Bowner 3415 says, starting off, and he asked 2 questions, but Zach, the second half of your question got cut off, so sorry, we can't see it. He says, starting off with a question for Jack. Do you think the Steelers' record with/without TJ Watt in seasons he misses time is a correlation or causation? Man, I wish Jack were here to answer this question. So I'll take it for Jack. I think it's causation. When you look at the record, it is 69-33 with TJ Watt, 1-10 without him, and it's not like every single one of these games is against a juggernaut offense either. There's games against the Jets. There's games against the Patriots without Tom Brady, against the Bears, against the Browns. Like, without TJ Watt, they allowed 22.2 points per game. With him, 16.6. Like, there's a very clear drop off in the Steelers defense with and without this one dude. We've compared him to Patrick Mahomes, being the Patrick Mahomes of the Steelers team, which, again, it sounds ridiculous. We know it's a little bit of a hyperbole, but really the impact is striking. So I would say it's a causation.
Some of it is correlation. Like, TJ Watt is not legitimately mattering for 8 or 9 wins.
Yeah. But
the dude is very, very good. He is one of those defensive players who is a real difference maker. I think he's responsible. Probably, I'd like to see the math, but you could probably count 2 or 3 wins a year from him, which is incredible, right? When we're talking 2 wins, we mean the difference between 11-6 and 9-8.
Yeah, that's playoff spots. That's playoff spots right there.
He's that good.
Coltrane says, I didn't understand this. How much of a QB killer is Kevin O'Connell? I think he's just trolling. You're just trolling, Cole. How much of a QB killer? Yeah, enough of that. Would you guys travel to Brazil for a game if the Vikings played down there? No.
I'd love to see Andre.
I'd love to go to Brazil, but I want to go to Minnesota. If I lived in Minnesota, I'm sure I would say yes to this. But being a Northeast Jersey guy, I want to. If I'm going to a Viking game, I want to go to Minnesota. I'm sure it'll be a great time. If I were a Packer fan living in Wisconsin, I could afford it. Yeah, go down, watch them play the Eagles. That'll be fun.
I think we got time for 2 more questions.
There's a couple questions left here. Cole says, team chemistry is a huge deal. How much do you weigh a player, non-QB's, ability to mesh with the current team chemistry? And should teams weigh it more heavily than they do? Chemistry is important, but I'm someone who always tends to look at the situation and say, a certain degree of talent, I'm willing to deal with the bullshit that comes with it. Now, like younger Antonio Brown, all of his antics, fine by me. We'll figure out a way to handle it. But older Antonio Brown, when he wasn't as productive, that is where I think it could start to become a disruption for a team. You don't want to involve that. But when you have a superstar, you're willing to deal with some of the diva traits, even if it does disrupt team chemistry a little bit. That's at least my view. That's try and straighten them out and have that production, because winning cures all.
Yeah, as you say, it's they're very rare is the player of the character flaw so bad that when you start winning games, it doesn't work. Now, Antonio Brown crossed that line, but in general, as you say, winning cures all ills. The player would have to be incredibly toxic for me to not want him on my team.
Yeah. All right, Zach, for your for your sake here, we will go through. There's a couple more here that we'll answer, and then we'll rapid fire through some of these here. Stuckman says, "This is the return of Stuckman. I realize that some mailbag videos tend to have a heavy focus towards one member or subject, so I've decided to ask 3 different questions, one for each of the boys. Different subject for the sake of variety." Yeah, Jack being a Homer Steeler fan, how big of a Homer he is. Huge.
I mean, he had the Steelers going 11.
Yeah, the Steelers winning the Super Bowl. Yeah, he's crazy biased. Paul, occasionally we hear about some people's all-time dream Super Bowls. So I'm curious to hear what yours would be. For example, the 1985 Bears against the Patriots dynasty, Aaron Rodgers versus Mahomes in a Super Bowl where the defenses get lit up, Barry Sanders in Detroit against Dan Marino and the Dolphins. What would be yours? All-time Super Bowl. If I could pick any 2 teams. Man, I would like to see. Now everyone always talks about the 85 Bears. I haven't sat down and really watched. I haven't watched every single game from the 85 Bears season. I would like to see that defense go up against. The Patriots would be really cool. Maybe the 98 Vikings too with that offense. I've always wanted to see that team. I wish I was alive for that team. So, I guess I get the Bears and Vikings. I guess I'm being. Like the Bears and Vikings can't play in the Super Bowl, so maybe I'm being a little unfair here. But that would be a dream matchup to watch. I think that would be it. Zach, can you think of any dream matchup that you'd want to see?
No.
I want to see the 98 Vikings go up against the 72 Dolphins and smoke them into oblivion. That's what I want to see. That's what I want to see.
You can't tell me you don't want to see the greatest show on turf versus the 85 Bears.
Yeah, I think the 85 Bears would be in my Super Bowl. Now I'm gonna blur the lines, and allow an NFC team to play in the Super Bowl. So, I would like to see the 85 Bears versus like great show on turf Vikings, New England if I had to pick. And then finally for Ziggy, the Ziegler, the philosopher, Zigosaurus, Zigmeister. What brand of headphones and glasses do you use to get up look sharp every day? So I'm curious to see where you get that drip from.
These are on very different spectrums. The glasses are they're from glassesusa.com. They're the Revel Tactics Black. These are like about the cheapest glasses you can buy, but I like how they look and they're cheap. The headphones are Hi-Fi Man and Ananda's. I really like planar magnetic headphones. I'm not going to nerd out. But because of the size of the magnets, you get a much clearer soundscape. This is what I put on when I'm listening to either Paul's beautiful voice or some good music.
Well done. And you do always look sharp, Ziggy, by the way. The future back.
Not always. You've gotten some comments on my look before, but I'm working on it.
Zach L61, what are your guys' favorite football movies? I love.
Crazy that I didn't get a question.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Do you want to? Zach, what's your favorite football movie, Zach?
No. We're moving on.
What's your favorite football movie?
No, we're moving on.
I go Remember the Titans. I love Remember the Titans.
Paul, there's only one answer.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my
The
God.
Blind Side?
No, look at my sweatshirt here.
Rudy.
Yeah, Rudy's great.
Rudy.
Jack loves Rudy. That's one of his all-time redeeming
Rudy. I mean, it's not even that good of a movie, but I'm required to love it.
Okay, hang in there, Zach. We got one more from Tony before the rapid fire. Tony RPH 480. He says, "Who will win next year's NFL MVP?" I know that people want us to say Jordan Love, but I'm not going to do it. I'll go with Joe Burrow. I think Burrow eventually gets. Gosh, it's hard to pick Burrow when you're in the AFC North, but I'm just going to go with Burrow until he does it. Then he says,
Herbert.
Yeah, that's not. Wait, Herbert. You got to win for that. You got to win to some degree for the award.
I believe in Harbaugh. If they make the playoffs, he's there.
MVP. Tua could be in there, Zach, if the Dolphins get the 1 seed.
LOL.
No, yeah, LOL. Probably Mahomes. I'm seeing too many talk shows picking the Jets, not a typo, to go to the Super Bowl. What's your take on that? The Jets going to the Super Bowl? No, I think the Jets are going to be better than people say. Yeah, Ziggy's just yawning. I think the Jets will be better than people are giving them credit. A lot of hype last year. Not really any hype this year. I actually think that they're going to be good.
They're not making the playoffs.
I think they right now. I think I have them barely missing, but I think they'll be right there. I'm not one to doubt Aaron Rodgers.
Have we read every mailbag question?
No. We skipped.
No.
And here we go.
I can't believe
Zach. This is where we make our money, Zach. This is where we make our money for the show.
No. This is where we don't make.
No, this is legitimately where we're going to make our money because it's who besides Jordan Love will be the offensive star for the Packers this year. This one I actually thought about a little, like quite a bit today, and offensively, there's so many options to choose from on this Packers team, and it actually pisses me off the more I go down the roster. I'm like, all right, you got Jaden Reed, you got Christian Watson, you got Romeo Dobbs, you got Josh Jacobs, for love of God. You have did I say Wicks? You have Wicks too. Even the tight ends are good. There's some really good offensive linemen. The guy I'm going to pick, though, is the first one I said. I like Jaden Reed a lot this year. Do I think he's going to put up crazy numbers? No, there's too many mouths to feed at receiver in Green Bay. But just look at the way he closed last year. The playoffs faded a little bit, but the end of the season, a couple really big games from him. He ended the year 64 receptions, 793 yards, and 8 touchdowns. And as Jordan Love was elevating his game, you saw Jaden Reed elevating his game too. I think he's going to be him and Watson to me. Like Christian Watson's always good when he's on the field, but I think Jaden Reed's going to be a guy who takes a couple big steps next year in terms of his progression. I'm looking at him, and then of course Josh Jacobs is going to be a heavy part of that offense. But I'll go with Reed. How about you?
Dontavian, DeJean, Wicks. That's it. Go Who's.
Yeah, I mean, Wicks. Like that's the thing about the Packers that's so frustrating is there's so many options. Like
I think this team, there's not going to be a single star. It's going to be a different guy going off every week. But
that's horrifying.
Dontavian Wicks will get his.
You'd almost rather have that than have the one.
Yeah, you game plan. We're just going to shut down the one guy and we'll win.
Yeah, you can't do that with the Packers, which sucks. Josh Jacobs he's going to be really good in Green Bay too.
I don't think so.
Last part of Tony's question was finally, do you think having a healthy Rashawn Gary, getting an aggressive defensive coordinator, and an amazing and versatile safety will be like having Clay Matthews and Charles Woodson and pairing them with Dom Capers to elevate that defense to Super Bowl caliber once again?
No.
Yeah, I mean, Clay Matthews and Charles Woodson, we're talking about some special talent, like really all-time special talents. I think the Packers defense, the sky's the limit. They have a ton of talent, but we've seen for a couple of years now, despite all the first rounders, they've been underwhelming at times, and a lot of the times underwhelming. I do think this is, again, the most hope that Packers fans have probably had for their defense heading into a season. And if it's all able to come together and, McKinney, whoever they draft, works out, that's how this team, then they move into Super Bowl territory or like legit Super Bowl territory if they're not already there. So I'm not going to go too far and compare them to Hall of Fame players yet, but it's an encouraging time. Yes, we get it for Packers fans. All right, Zach, for your sake, we'll rapid fire these last ones and get out of here. King Don Sobek. Who knows if I read that right? What QB do you want the most within reason for the Vikings? Within reason, I want Drake May, but I think the Patriots are going to take him, so it'll probably be McCarthy. Chad Inc. says, who are you hoping the Vikings draft a QB if they draft a QB? There you go, Drake May, but it'll be McCarthy. Bobby McClendon 6567 says, how likely is a Texans and Packers Super Bowl this year?
Extremely improbable.
Well, we've gotten this question before. It's funny. I think it would be a fun Super Bowl. Obviously, I can't root for the Packers to get that far. But that matchup
improbable.
Would be super fun to watch. I mean, they're similar teams with electrifying quarterbacks, but improbable. Paper Moon 602. Do you think the Packers will get Cooper DeJean? My guess right now is yes, but it's almost starting to feel like everyone is, even the Packers are talking about him so much that it'll probably go in a different direction. So tentatively, yes. But, I mean, it's the draft. You never know what's going to happen. Last couple ones here. A member, Butt Pounder 420. Butt Pounder 420. There you go. You got us to read it. He says, how many child sacrifices must the Cowboys make in order to get a divisional win? Or is there simply not enough innocent blood in the world to manifest such an unholy thing?
Not enough.
Not enough. There's not enough for the Cowboys.
I mean, you can ask the Canaanites how the child sacrifice works. It would reduce the Cowboys' chances.
That is a great question. I can't believe I'm going to have to be reading Butt Pounder 420 on every single show. That's a tough look. Zach, the amazing Oppo 4918 says, who would win in a dance off? The Zigmeister, Zach, or the other guy? Who are you?
The other guy.
Yeah. Oh, really? Yeah. All right. Yeah. I mean,
I think it's the other guy.
Little moonwalk here or there.
The other guy knows how to gritty.
Knows how to gritty. I mean, the other guy is like a little Michael Jackson in him, maybe. Oh, that's a tough comment for me. That's a dancer. Last one here. Mercury Road 55 says, with the emergence of AI spiraling us towards a post-work society, great philosophers are pondering the impacts to humanity and what it means to exist. So my question is this. Do the Packers win the Super Bowl by 28 points or more? F off, man. F off. Mercury Road comments.
You don't have to read these questions.
Oh, hey, Mercury Road comments and all. If you're commenting on all of them, we appreciate it. Nathan Smith said, Ziggy, thoughts on it's Hagel?
We're not doing that. You said it was rapid fire. Not very good. Not all that interesting.
Respond to him in the
post-con German is.
Respond to him in the comment section if you don't mind, Ziggy. Give it a little thoughts on.
Well, look, I'm just saying this. I don't even really like thinking about Hegel. Anything post-con German is bad, except for like Carnap and some of the Vienna Circle stuff. But that's very different.
Well, there you have it, Zach. How long was the show?
An hour. Like in 5 minutes.
Okay, there you go. Zach came in and was like, maybe do a half-hour show. I was like, probably 45. And
we just always go over. That's how it is. But when we get so many good questions.
I mean, I actually think we're going through this and I realized how much longer we had to go at Zach's expense. But I was looking at all the questions going, it's not like we're just sitting here, talking like idiots. I think that these are good questions. So you ask good questions, we'll answer them. And remember, if you're a member, you will get it read, even if your name is Butt Pounder 420. Oh my gosh, we're gonna get picked up by a network, and it's gonna be a quick ride, boys. It'll be
if we ever go big, someone is just gonna put a compilation of you saying that person's
Butt
name.
Pounder, yeah. I mean, I've said it 5 times on the show. So, all right. Before something worse happens, again, everyone have a great NFL draft night. It should be super fun. Thanks again to everyone who listens. Remember, you can check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts as well. If you can't watch it on YouTube. Continue to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. We'll try and get to as many comments as we can. Clearly, we are willing to go over the time limit on the mailbag questions here. So, yeah. So we'll see you guys, hopefully with a couple instant reactions to the draft tonight. If not, we'll see you with our early show next week, reacting to everything. Ziggy, safe travels, and good luck with your speech. And hopefully Jack has a fun time in Nashville. We'll see you guys later.